Each and every podcast of the Optimize You studio is sponsored by Optimize You Evansville. At Optimize You Evansville, we help you take control of your health, performance, and vitality through cutting-edge hormone optimization, peptide therapy, athletic recovery, weight loss, and sexual health solutions. Whether you're an athlete looking to maximize recovery, someone striving for sustainable weight loss, or just looking to feel like your best self again, we used advanced diagnostics and personalized treatment plans to get you there. Our science-backed approach helped optimize energy levels, mental clarity, muscle recovery, and overall well-being. Because feeling great isn't optional, it's essential. You ready to elevate your potential? Let's get started today at Optimize You Evansville, where normal is not optimal. Jason,
yep.
You're now the second person on this show who the last time I was standing next to, whenever you came on here, we were in our underwear next to each other.
Yeah, we were in some sparkly briefs.
I don't even know. They don't even qualify as underwear. They're incredibly sparkly.
Yes.
Sparkly, black, metallic. Look great on stage. But
yeah.
So, Jason, you and I just, what was that, like 3 weeks ago now?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago?
Yep.
Competed in the NPC Indiana Muscle.
Yes, sir.
Met you backstage, just kind of broing out with everybody back there. And I've told everybody the story about you and I standing in line and getting ready to go up for the finals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you turning around and saying, were we supposed to pick music for this?
Oh, yeah, because...
and I was like, are you serious, dude? This is what I spent the most time on, was trying to figure out what song I was going to sing up here.
So
it's such a Derek thing.
I knew we were all going to go up and do our mandatories together, and I knew we had our 60-second routine, but the 2 30-second free posing
totally threw me off too.
Yeah, had no idea that was a thing. So when they were talking about it, I was like, was I supposed to pick a song for this? Because I only picked a song for my 60-second routine. I didn't know I was supposed to pick a song for this one.
Yeah.
So I was kind of afraid I was going to go up there and it was just going to be silence. And I was like, this isn't weird.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's no timing to it. Because the way that I did it was the way that I knew that I was like, my 60 seconds was like coming up. Because I'd heard that, in the bigger shows, they kind of give you some free reign. If it's like a minute 10 or something like that, they let you go over whatever. But on these, it's like done, out, And so I had kind of choreographed, as, sissy as that sounds, like where my spots were in the song, where I needed to be at. And then, so I could get all my poses put in, and then you're in front of me and you're like, were we supposed to pick a song for this? And then I was like, then I'm like, shit, were we supposed to pick a song for this?
Yeah. I mean, I
put a lot of effort into picking a song for this.
It just caught me completely off guard because I had no idea about the 2 30-second periods. And I knew I'd picked a song for the 60. Actually, my wife picked the song for the 60 seconds. She's the one who chose that one. But yeah, I had no idea. So I was actually a little scared. I was like, man, this is going to be really weird if I walk out there and it's silent for the next, 30, 40 seconds while I'm out there.
Yeah.
But they gave us cues on the 30 seconds. The 60 seconds, they just cut you off. But on the 30 seconds, they at least were like, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and then you got to go off. But you put a lot of effort into your routine, you were saying.
I feel like I did. I don't, it was one of those things where it was like, all right, you're getting up there. What is going to be playing over the speaker that's going to distract me enough to have a bunch of people watching me?
Right.
I didn't want to throw into anything super dramatic, as some competitors felt.
Yeah, there were 2, and I think they both posed relatively well.
Yeah,
to the
it
songs
looked
that
great.
They chose
Yeah,
too.
it looked great.
Yeah.
And so and I was like, okay, keep it simple, keep the energy high, and be it, be impactful enough in that first minute of like a song. So like a good intro to a song to where I don't have to worry about, the guy at the AV booth, like starting it on something different. So like I said, there was a lot of thought put into it for something that it probably at the end of the day doesn't mean anything.
From what I understand, the finals, especially in classic physique, they typically prejudging's where they're choosing the winner. The finals and things like that are for overalls and for family and friends to do your posing routines for, and people who came out to see you.
It's the talent show portion of it.
Yeah. Well, so the way I actually explained it to my kids when they were like, "Well, what's a bodybuilding show?" And I was like, "Well, it's kind of like a beauty pageant for men."
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a good way to put it.
And they were like, they kind of understood, and they were all there, so they were like, I kind of see what you mean now.
Yeah. They get it. So that was your first show, also, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. First one. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Everybody there was great.
Yeah.
Even backstage when we were like warming up and everything, there was nobody I talked to where I was like, yeah, guys. Kind of douche.
Yeah, the stereotypical knuckle dragger douche guy.
Everybody was great, and also Uriah was there, and he's a part of the Team Edmonds. So it was nice to have somebody I've been working out with for the past 5 years, and on the same team as me at the same show. So it was kind of like I went in comfortable. Being local as well. Yeah,
I for zero experience, and again, kind of putting up so much thought into like the song I was going to do, whatever, totally relaxed. And I think a lot of it had to do with the environment that it was in. Just a lot of cool people back there, man, and, that's where you and I kind of connected back there, or the moment on the steps. I mean, I'm telling you, that was like a bonding thing, because I was like, oh my gosh, this has got.
I made you.
This guy is so confident. He's just gonna walk up there and I don't care what song they play. I'm just gonna get up there and do my thing.
So I was actually extremely nervous at first, like especially during prejudging, but it was a lot more comfortable when you walk out on stage and you notice that there's screens. Right?
Yeah.
So like the screen at the front of the stage where you could actually see yourself, because a lot of people, including myself, were posing in mirrors.
Exactly.
It's a lot harder to know whether or not I'm posing correctly and hitting every muscle group when there's no mirror in front of me.
You're right.
But the TV made it, and then you'd watch yourself and you hit the pose and you're like, all that hard work I did for the past 20 weeks, I can see it right here.
Yeah.
And then the confidence just starts to build after that.
Exactly. I could not agree with you more.
I think everybody in the novice class, even the head judge, was said that this is
the best novice class ever. And I was like, that's awesome. I couldn't agree with you more on the thing, because another, not really a freak out moment, but it was like, okay, I'm going to have to. And again, I went in with zero expectations. Right. I was like, I just want to get up there and do this. About 2 or 3 days beforehand, as you're pouring through like YouTube videos of posing and all this other kind of stuff. I had heard that now when you get closer, you need to pull the mirrors out of the way, because you're not going to have those at the show. And I was like, gosh, dang it.
And then you get there
and they have this monitor in a nice big monitor, right? Like you can see.
So when you're hitting your back poses.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, that's good. And I mean, all honesty, I was making adjustments up there, like whenever I look down and you see, you're like, okay, blow out more. Oh, there it is, kind of thing.
Control your stomach.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
letting it go a little bit. Your shoulders are a little tilted, so it makes you look offset, right? And I would see those things, when we were doing our mandatories or holding them for a minute, getting swapped around, I would notice sometimes I was dropping on one side, and I was like, okay, that screen, I got to adjust my shoulder back up, because I'm losing this a little bit.
Yeah, I was surprised at the fact that, whenever somebody is working you through posing, did you have a posing coach, or did your coach help you with that part of it?
I went to a few posing clinics, but I didn't have like a dedicated posing coach. Okay. Once a week, we would send all our check-in photos, and the check-in photos were all of our mandatory poses. Okay. And he would critique them, but when he came down for the show, or up, wherever, when he came for the show, he worked with us the night before, and tweaked our posing a little bit more, because I was having a really hard time firing my right quad, compared to my left quad. Okay. I could really get the striation, get everything going here, but this one I just couldn't. And he would explain it through text, but I wasn't understanding. And when he came down, he showed me just move my foot a little bit toes to the right, and then all of a sudden everything starts firing. Right? I was like, oh, okay, wow, is that simple? I don't know.
Right. I was working with a guy, Josiah. He's Grass Fed Fitness on Instagram.
Okay.
With some posing, and he was recommended by my coach. But dude, I was such a novice at it. Like I wasn't. It just wasn't translating well with me now. Now I think I could go back to him because you kind of know at least the basics of it all. You know, you kind of at least know how to get started. But you know, when you're FaceTiming with a guy and he's
It's
like,
a little hard.
it is hard, you know, and he's like, oh no, I can't see you. You need to tilt your phone down for me. And I'm like,
the
oh,
lighting
okay.
could be a little off, and he may not be able to see this or that.
So
yeah,
highly recommended that you know, if you, for all first timers out there, you find you a live posing coach at least to get you started. You know?
I 100% agree because you know, especially at the beginning of the show, I was like, I can bro pose all day. I can throw a front double bicep in the mirror and not flex anything else, but it looks great as like a normal gym goer.
Right.
But I don't know how to. I mean, how do I flex my hamstrings, my glutes, and my calves all at the exact same time while trying to maintain holding a back double bicep? Like that's really hard.
Yeah.
And I actually worked with a guy named Brett, and then David Morgan, and Uriah and I worked a lot on our posing together at Rhino Family Fitness. So David and Brett, they both competed at the Indiana Muscle the prior years, so they had some experience coming into it too. So I think that helped me out a lot.
Yeah,
with especially the mandatories.
Yeah, it didn't take but like an hour with a live posing coach. You know, especially if you go in there with like some just fundamental knowledge. You know, and the key word that I kept hearing during that was relax. Like you're trying too hard. Like it's not. You know, you're not. It's called a front relaxed position. You're not relaxed per se, but a lot of times you're trying to flex. You know, you're trying to flex your pectorals. You're trying to elevate your traps because you want this to look good up front.
Focusing too much on one thing, taken away from something else.
Yeah, lift and spread your back out, and then just let your arms sit. Oh, okay. And it's like doing quad and abs. You know.
Yeah.
It's not it's not like a growling. So it's like just push out with your breath.
Yeah. Let all the air out.
Yeah.
Hit the quad. Your abs are going to show.
Right.
You're going to be lean enough on stage where they're just going to pop in.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah. So it's amazing. It's truly an art. I mean, truly an art. You know, 100%. and just great respect. If anybody has some sort of ill thought of bodybuilding as an art, give it a try because
especially if you see some of these pros and how they pose, you're like, man, how do they flow from this pose to this pose, and it just looks like it's beautiful, basically. You know, and you got me up there, and I was stumbling around trying to do it as nicely as they were, but I just wasn't as choreographed.
Right.
Which, again, first show, I had no expectation. It was just an experience for me. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because I want to get into bodybuilding and do more shows, and so this one I think was a great learning experience. It was a good atmosphere, good people. A&S are always, they're always good people.
Great, Eric and Trevor. Trevor's going to be a guest here Wednesday. So, and then I'm trying to get Trevor and Eric both here at the same time, so we can kind of just discuss what it takes to promote a bodybuilding show. You know, that kind of caliber. Yeah. But our problem is that the standard of what Indiana Muscle was put on at is now kind of the bar, right? You know, so and I'm hoping that the same experience is at all those other shows too, going forward. So you mentioned that just because I know we were talking beforehand about your a little bit of your history, you also had a pretty significant life-changing event injury a couple years ago as well.
Yeah, and I was just listening to you explain yours on the way here. I think I did have a pretty extensive injury in 2018. I was driving my truck on I-64 heading towards like New Albany and Louisville, and I just dozed off behind the wheel. It was like 2 a.m. I dozed off and drove just right off the side of the highway, rolled my truck a few times. Obviously on initial impact, everything went dark. I blacked out or got knocked out or whatever it was when the accident had happened. And when I came to, the truck was upside down in this ditch, and I kind of tilted my head back, and my window was gapped probably around that much. And I was like, man, my feet feel kind of weird. I could move my toes, but it's just like I couldn't pick my legs up really. Um, but I had looked back and I was like, okay, I look like I'm pretty far down. I was like, I can lay here. It's 2 a.m. and maybe somebody's going to see me down here. Or I can try and get out and get back to the highway. So when I look back, I had torn my arm up pretty good. I don't know if you've seen the scars or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I had torn my arm up pretty good. And I tore some things up in my shoulder. So I didn't really have a lot of use. So I used my right hand and I tipped back on the window and kind of like shimmied out. And then one arm army crawled back up the side of the highway. And when I got to the back to the top, a little white S10 had just passed and saw me crawl right over the lip.
Oh my gosh.
And pulled over about 50 feet up, and that's how I was found.
Wow.
But when I looked down into the ditch, whenever they were blocking off the highway, because I was lifelined, you know, they were blocking off the highway, and I kind of looked down into the ditch, and I was like, nobody would have ever seen me down there. I probably would have, you know, because I was bleeding pretty bad.
Sure.
I was like, I probably could have died down
there. Could have been it.
Yeah. But so they lifelined me to Louisville, and then the very next morning I had surgery. I completely destroyed 2 vertebrae and splintered 2 different sections of spine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of surgery what kind of spine surgery did you have after that?
I had 2 rods put in and 10 screws and 2 hook screws put in.
Right. That and as far as the arm is concerned, was it kind of cosmetic lacerations, or did you have deep tissue stuff?
I had I think like the 65 plus stitches that they put in pretty well fixed my arm.
Okay.
The worst part about my arm was after the surgery, they told me, they were like, well, you have foreign objects. Sure. And they were like, if your arm gets infected, very easy for infection to spread to, where the foreign objects are. So they were like, you have to clean it multiple times a day. Yeah. So we gauzed it all the way down, and my mother would change my bandages. And it was miserable because every time you pulled the gauze off, you were just ripping all the scabs off all the way down, and you would just start bleeding all over again, and then the saline, and then put the new ones on. Right. So with the arm, it was just 3 times a day for weeks and weeks, just getting it cleaned up. It was pretty miserable. Yeah.
So how long, so you get life flighted, you have some spine surgery. How long were you in the hospital after that?
A week and like 3 days.
Okay.
Before I was allowed to go home.
Right. And the rehab process for that, extensive.
Yeah, it was beginning of 2019 was one of the first times I walked unassisted.
Okay.
Like without my walker, or I still have a bad, sometimes I have a limp, sometimes not. But it took all the way to about 2019 to walk normally and to regain all the use in both legs.
And at this time you're 30 now, right?
Yeah.
So this time you're 24, 25 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that where the right leg comes in? Is that where you have some temporary, or some intermittent weakness or inability to fire the?
I think so. That could be because if I damage any of those nerves or anything that would allow me to fire everything, that could be an issue. I don't actually know. My coach actually was like, "You need to go see your chiropractor." And he could adjust my hips,
right?
But I was like, I can't go see a chiropractor. I'm fused all the way down.
Yeah.
There's no adjusting that.
Yeah. So since so you're 6 years, 5 years or so out from that now, still have an occasional pain down the leg, stuff like that. But getting back to where you're at, because I know you did some jiu-jitsu, you did some combat sports, things like that beforehand. That kind of puts an end to that stuff,
Yeah, they told me that where it is at the base of my neck, like if I got slammed wrong or toppled on my head, they were like, there's a chance you might not walk after that if you really damage any of the hardware that you have.
Yeah.
So, and I have a 9-year-old, so at the time I was like, okay, I can either risk it and keep doing this and maybe have something happen and it drastically affect her life as well.
Oh yeah.
Or I can step away and try and find something else to fill that space.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started going to the gym and solely focusing on just lifting weights.
Yeah. Yeah. So just the similarity in past that you and I share is kind of a wild thing too. It's the same kind of motivation too. I had he was a baby, I'm pointing at Sonny. He's off camera, but he was a baby. My middle daughter was just entering first grade kindergarten. And my oldest daughter was, fifth or sixth grader at the time, so it was, especially when you get back to the part where you're up and you're mobile and things like that, you're so focused on that part of it getting better.
Yeah.
And you hear about, when you're in that arena, you hear about, those, people get injured all the time, people, especially like jujitsu, you tear a shoulder up, tear a knee up.
It's very easy to twist something just slightly the wrong way and tear something up.
And you would hear about guys going to get surgery, and then, 6, 9 months, a year later, and they're coming back and they're slow rolling or, slow rolling with guys or whatever. And then they're back at it, for injuries like the ones that you suffered and what I suffered were like, I wasn't at risk of paralysis or anything like that. I've already got that, from the injury one, but just the thought of something else, like that happening,
because you're more susceptible, now to an injury in that area.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it just wasn't, even though I liked or loved combat sports, it just wasn't worth risking anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the hardest parts about the injury wasn't the rehab or coming back from it. I mean, that was extremely hard, but it was, and I'm sure you feel this way too, but going from being extremely active, extremely like self-sufficient, I can do this, I do combat, to, now my mom has to sit me up on the couch.
Yeah.
That was, I think, one of the hardest parts, because, I went from having my own place, doing everything on my own, taking care of everything, raising my, my children, doing this, doing that, to now my mom has to sit me up, change my bandages, bring me drinks and help me wash off and things like that. And it was really hard to, I guess, accept that throughout recovery, being able to just be like, all right, I need help, rather than trying to do it by myself. Because there were multiple times where I would still try and do things, and it was like, for instance, my mom was at work one day, and I went outside, and I had my walker and my back brace, and I was walking down the sidewalk, and it caught in one of the cracks, and I fell into the grass. And I mean, cars were driving by, and I was just laying there. I was like, I can't get back up. Luckily, my sister was already like on the way or something, and she got there and helped me back up. But it was like, how long would I have been stuck there? Because I'm so bullheaded, and I was like, I can still do this, and I just couldn't.
Right. Yeah. I'll tell funny or kind of a similar kind of realization though when Sonny was in preschool, and they're going through the alphabet, and they get to the letter J. He's laughing. They get to the letter J, and J is for jug, and use it in a sentence, or use J in a sentence. He was like, a jug is what my daddy pees in. because it's like the similar thing. It's like it was so much effort to get up and go that I just had a urinal, and it was the jug. And he was, when your kids are, aware enough of those situations, they use it at their preschool as an example for, what J stands for. It's like, it's a motivator, it's like, okay, we got to get better here.
Yeah. I got a lot of different things like, to sit down on, to use the restroom, I had to get one of those risers because I couldn't sit fully down. So I had to get one of those shower seat so I could sit down and take a shower, because I just couldn't stand for long periods of times. Or we would go somewhere, and I had a pretty cool walker. It had handle brakes and everything. When I upgraded, when I fell, I upgraded to a better walker. So I had wheels in it. Actually, you could turn around and sit down in it. But, I'd walk 20, 30 feet, and I'd just be exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I have to sit down. So I'd sit down and wheel myself around. But, the adjustment to having to rely on everybody and everything around you, like that was really hard.
Well, and especially, and then this is when you go from almost a elite kind of alpha status, like when you're doing things like combat sports, and you're 4 or 5 nights a week, you're rolling and choking and snapping and just a total
like a
badass. Yeah, just total badass. Yeah.
All of a sudden, your feet are just sweep right out from under
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. So, you get better, you rehab, things get, where does bodybuilding come into play?
Oh, so when I came to the realization that combat sports just couldn't be for me anymore. I was still going to the gym at least 3 days a week through my rehabilitation. I would go to rehab 2-3 times, and then any other day I would go to the gym, which was Anytime Fitness in Vincennes when they had it about 4 or 5 blocks from my mom's house. So she would drive me in the evenings and let me go in, and I would try and do anything I can with the 5-pound weights, just getting strength back in my shoulders or whatever it was, and it originally started with just wanting to do. I needed something to fill the 3 hours of training I used to do. So weightlifting, I guess, kept my mind off of everything else. It was just a way to escape it and still be able to be active and things like that. And I guess over time it just grew, into wanting to maybe compete, because I still had that competitive drive. And that want to be in a competitive setting. So I was at the gym one day, and Mike Downey, he won the overall in classic physique at the Indiana Muscle in the Open. He was actually there that day, and I remember he had just started competing at the time, and I remember telling him, I was like, I'm going to compete one day too. And it just kind of stuck with me, and I kept training over the years, and I always had this self-doubt. I was like, I'm not big enough. I can't go up there and compete with these guys because I don't have as much muscle quality. And then finally last year, around July, I was like, looked at my wife, and I was like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
I keep talking about it, but talk's not getting me there. I'm just, if I don't do it now, I don't think I'll ever do it. I'll just keep saying I want to do it and never actually do it. And so I think July, I just took the leap of faith, and I'm happy I did, because it was an amazing experience. I met amazing people. My coach is awesome.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie, because we got a pretty decent sized team.
Yeah.
With Matt. So,
so when you get into the bodybuilding thing, you make this decision, and I'm the same way. I talked about it forever. I wanted to do it. I have a personal problem with kind of romanticizing these ideas and never really putting them into action. This would be so cool if I did X. And you don't have the confidence, or you don't have the resources, or you don't even know how to really start those kinds of things. Dakota and I have had this conversation a couple times. I think that's because we hooked up just strictly on happenstance.
Right.
I literally decided to go get my beard trimmed one day, and the place that I go to, a super cool guy, DW. Shout out to DW and Ryan and at the Speakeasy in Henderson, Kentucky. But he had come in and done just some little Facebook content stuff for him, not Instagram content, kind of real kind of things, and I commented on it, and I was like, dude, that looks amazing. Who's your guy? And they're like, oh, it's Dakota. He's trying to he's kind of trying to do these things where he's coming in and does a lot of photography and does a lot of content creation, and we kind of had him come in here and do some stuff for us. I'm like, well, give me his contact number, and that was that was 3 or 4, 5 months ago at this point, and we've all, I think
something like that.
I think we hang every day now. We do.
It turned into talking every day, kind of a friend, like definitely a friendship.
Yeah, come over. Yeah, he doesn't have to knock if he comes over to the house anymore. Just shut off.
It's really. I'm like, we live like 5 minutes away from each other. I was like, hey, I'm gonna swap SD cards with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna come over there.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
Don't forget your backpack. Actually, I'll just take your backpack for you.
Right place at the right time. Yeah,
for you.
Yeah. So again, but he, and I've said this 1,000 times before, he's the executor. Our visions align a lot on so much. I'm a big film nerd too. Okay. So the kid of the 90s, so the vision and his ability to translate it is crazy.
Yeah. And you were talking about that, and I think your second episode, where you were getting interviewed about how you wanted to go to film school,
right?
And how he does a fantastic job at executing what you envision for for this.
And the beauty of it was the beauty of now is that in 95, whenever I told my mom and dad I wanted to go to film school, you had to go to film school to learn this stuff. Like you had to go to New York or LA or wherever at the time to do that. Well, now we can just YouTube.
YouTube.
All of this is kind of a YouTube setup, and then he gets super technical on the lighting and the camera stuff. So it's the synergy is awesome. And that's kind of the same way with like you hooking up with these team guys. It's just things just fall into place, at the right time,
Because I went and talked to Uriah, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this, because I was going through a hard time and with my old coach and some other health things, and I had went and talked to Uriah, and he was like, "Wayne, why don't you talk to Matt and just kind of see, if he'll take you on for the rest of it." And so I reached out to Matt and just kicked it right off.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was great transitioning,
And this won't translate well to everybody, but he took you in at 9 weeks before a show, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's a dude that's like, yeah, man, let me help you out. And so, and that is, I've encountered that more than the opposite in this.
Yeah, everybody in most people I've met in the fitness world or the bodybuilding world are very kind.
Yeah.
Very, very kind. And
Yeah.
some of the most helpful people,
Yeah.
Even people that you're competing against. Like there are people at the show where I would ask, a question about how, I know we're competing against, how are you hitting this? What are you doing different? What am I doing different? And they'll take the time and they'll show you. Even though we're going to compete against each other, they're still stopping and showing you,
absolutely
helping you out. And
So it was actually my first show that I have ever been to or ever seen like before. And for me, it felt like I completely understand it being a competition, but kind of like what you said, it is a lot of what was I forget the word. It was like a men's what did you say? I forget what you called it because your
the men's
children asked.
Like a
beauty pageant.
Yeah, so like I know that's somewhat of a competition too, but it's really just kind of like a celebration, like of people. Like all I saw and all I felt while I was sitting down there, waiting to take pictures, like I was cheering for everyone. I felt the energy for everyone because I've just watching him and everything that he's done. I know how much work and how much effort it takes to get to that position, to feel comfortable, to get up on that stage, and it just felt like a celebration of everyone's time and everyone's effort.
100%.
And like I feel like the rewards just almost and everyone's gonna have their own opinion, but the rewards almost felt secondary. I feel like everyone won. That seems like such a cliche thing to say, but everyone felt like it was a winner on the stage, and that was my favorite part about it. Feeling like you could cheer for everyone. You weren't really dogging down any single person. That wasn't the point of it. Like everyone was lifting people up, and that was my favorite part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not any real heels in professional bodybuilding. Although it'd be cool if we could like cut promos like wrestling promos against each other. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, like build up the shows like they did back in the 90s.
Exactly. Yeah. Elbow each other out of the way when you're closing down and stuff. But I can't stress enough what, again, just echoing kind of what we're going with here is that how much camaraderie and just goodwill and just fun it was.
I also think it's one of the biggest things that pulls us all together is prep's hard. All of us went through the same style of prep, whether we had to lose more or less or depending on where we were during it. But the last 3 weeks of prep is pretty miserable. You're pulling water, your food's low, you have almost no carbohydrates, you're doing your fasted cardio and everything. And I think that that's another thing is we all know what each one of us did basically.
Oh yeah.
To get to step on stage.
That part of it.
So and it's not just when we were up there all posing with each other. It's even when even they handed out trophies or did this or that and we all got off stage and it was like immediately we were back there congratulating each other.
Oh yeah,
like dude, that was awesome. You did great. Yeah. This, that,
No, you just go down it's just like you just won the baseball game, right? You're walking down those steps and everybody's fist bumping you and high fiving, like great job, good job, that kind of thing. And it was like I said, it was a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So I went through, you kind of alluded to, you had a coach that you started with. It was okay. Maybe she wasn't, you mentioned it was a she at the time. So but just wasn't aligning very well. I went through a similar thing. I had a very well-known coach, and he was a great dude, but the communication wasn't good for me. The way that it was set up.
Right.
I saw results with him, but taking it that next step or getting feedback on weekly check-ins and things like that just wasn't enough for me, and we kind of parted ways. The guy I'm with now kind of sounds similar to the experience that you're having. Is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't know if you're the same way, but I like to know the why. Like whenever food changes, or whenever add this much salt, not this much salt, drink this much water, not this much water. I like to understand why I'm doing it, just because the changes that it makes. It's like I kind of want to know how that works, and so. I mean, and she was good with responding to things, but I mean, like you said, communication with your coach, like that's a big thing, because I like to know the why. If I have a question, or if I feel off in any way, like I want to be able to reach out to my coach and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling. What do you think?" And then get a response relatively quick, especially through prep.
Right. Yeah. And you want to respect the time of it too, because I'm telling like as a healthcare provider, that you want to be available for your patients and things like that. But there's a threshold of abuse as well, where it's like, hey, like getting Facebook messages at 9:00 at night wanting to know what this rash is, that kind of stuff. It's like, and I can't help myself but answer it for them just because that's my nature.
Right.
But and I'm going to regret saying this, but I'm happy to do it. But it gets to a point where it's like, you have to have some downtime too, just like your coach does, you have this open line of communication, but I don't necessarily expect unless I'm in prep or there's something dire kind of happening, I don't expect an answer right away, but it's always the same day, it may be 2 or 3 hours later, but it's always the same day. He's also on the other side of the country. So it's like, the time zones are different too. So.
It could be in the middle of the night.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel the same way, especially through prep, because your body's, body changes a lot through prep, and your emotions or everything's going up and down through prep, just because of how depleted you are and how everything starts to taper off through everything. So, especially through prep, I like to be able to reach out and at least get an answer that day, which my coach will answer me usually within an hour. So, especially during prep, but even during the off season, I mean, I try and keep my questions to a minimum, because he's got a lot of, athletes, and they compete, pretty frequently. So he's got multiple people in prep all the time. So I try not to take time away from my teammates, because they need it, at this time more. So I try and focus most of my questions on when I do check-ins. Like this morning I did check-ins. I had, send him check-ins and then would ask whatever I wanted to ask, and he would get back to me, whenever he did everything.
Is his team that he has, is it national, or is it just more of a regional kind of people that he is it all?
I don't know where everybody's from.
Yeah.
I know we have a Instagram group where we all talk and communicate with each other and share our progress photos and things like that. But I've realized here recently that a lot of them compete at the same shows.
Okay.
Like at the this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken, he had three people.
Yeah.
Competing.
I've seen his name just as as far as like the following the same folks, right? Yeah. So you're a friend with this person, and this is his coach that he keeps kind of tagging, and then you just kind of end up following them or whatever. So he's been around for a while. He's got some experience doing this, and I've always really heard good things about him. My guy was with a bigger group of trainers, a big national group of trainers that is pretty well known. The guy that ran it is a big, kind of YouTube, Instagram influencer. I mean, he's not an influencer. I mean, he's legit, but it's a very well known nutrition thing. And he broke off by himself, and I just ended up staying with him. And he's excellent. He takes care of me and
a coach makes or breaks a prep.
Absolutely.
If you don't have a good coach, like, you know, it could really make the difference between how you view the sport in a whole. So yeah, when I switched from, you know, my previous coach, which I had for, you know, 6 or 7 months at the time, I switched to Matt. In my experience with the last 9 weeks of prep compared to the first 11 weeks of prep were night and day different.
Yeah.
Just because, and again, nothing against her. She was a very kind person, would answer me any time of day. I could probably call her and she would answer any question I had. I don't know if the experience was quite there.
Sure.
But working with Matt, it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel the same way. Like, this dude was great. I saw progress. The communication was just not what I was wanting, you know? And so we parted ways, and now he continues to do great, and you know, and we're there too. So Jason's advice to the first time bodybuilder is what? First time competing bodybuilder.
Take everything by day. Don't expect everything to come quickly. I learned a lot through prep that there's slow changes. That's why we start prep pretty far out. I started a 20-week prep, so and don't watch the scale. I had a very bad habit of that, where I would weigh in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm a pound heavy, or this or that. My coach at one point, whenever I would express my concern, he's like, the scale's for me, not for you. Don't watch the scale. He goes, just follow the plan and we'll get there. I promise. And it was really hard for me to deviate from worrying about how much I weighed this day or that day, especially because of the weight cap. But patience is key with bodybuilding, in my opinion. And so just be patient, trust the process, and trust your coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust the process is the phrase that constantly pops into my head, because a lot of it is so counterintuitive that, you know, again, when we were talking about the posing part of it, you know, like when you think about posing, you're thinking about the dude up on stage just, you know, just like grunting and screaming and, you know, and veins popping all over the place. That's not it at all, right? That is,
you got to flow, even in your mandatories, you got to flow from the front relaxed to the side relaxed, everything. You want to try and be the first one in the pose, you know, the first one to transition and things like that. I mean, posing's hard.
Yeah.
Posing's just hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the hardest part of all of it, I think. You know, anybody can go and put you know, if you're into it, you'll follow the diet, you'll do you'll do the weights, you'll do the cardio, you'll do all the other stuff. Posing is such a distant afterthought of all that stuff, because you're like, well, I can go up there and flex, you know, like, no, that's not it at all.
Even when we were up there and we were holding like any of the mandatory poses for like 25 seconds, you start to breathe pretty heavy at the end of that. You start to lose it a little bit if you're not conditioned enough to hold that pose.
Yeah, and then, you know, when you watch these videos, you know, I watch a lot of John Jewett videos, you know, and just because he's he does the J3 University does like a complete course on all this stuff, you know, like on prep and things. But, you know, I was watching one of his videos this morning because about, you know, kind of pulling your waist in tighter, you know, and, you know, doing these kind of vacuum exercises fasted first thing in the morning. And, you know, it's the pulling in, blowing your air out, holding that, you know, try to work for 20 seconds. Don't relax, you know, get into the habit of not doing that, because if you're on stage and you do that, well, the illusion goes away. The smoke dissipates and the mirrors get lifted and you're like, oh, there it is. You know,
and you're being judged at every moment.
Oh, absolutely.
So like even when you're in the middle of transitioning or standing off to the side while other people are posing, doing their mandatories, if you can be seen, you're being judged.
Oh yeah.
So
I don't know. Were you at the posing clinic that they put on? That was at the West Side Bob's?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, Corey Young, who's IFBB pro, here local guy. He, you know, whenever he said the thing that kind of alluded to that too, like, you're being watched all the time. If you have to breathe and reset, here's a trick. You know, when you do the front cross, kind of the front cross to the hands kind of thing. So you can, so that abdomen gets loose. You
your
can
arms,
suck it back up and then, you know, go back to your front relaxed again. So, you know, just it's things like that you would
never think
about, right? Yeah. And just never think about it. And you're like, man, I thought it was just good enough. I was like, kind of thing, you know. So the the posing part of it, and then all of the hidden little secrets and tips and how to do it, and like the staggering of the feet thing when you're in the side pose, you know,
just turn them a little bit out and then pull your knees together.
Pull your knees together.
Fires your quads.
Right. The one that I thought was really interesting was the when you're doing your side relaxed, you know, is to stagger your legs. So the one toe, either the rear or the front, whatever your quad or ham, whichever needs the most help, right? If it's your hamstring that needs the help, your back foot, the toe goes to the base of your toe on the other foot. That way it gives this kind of depth illusion on the backside. So it means just like stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, or like something on the side chest, or when you're doing a side chest, you're not actually flexing the lead leg. You're pushing the lead leg into the back leg,
right?
And that's what's pushing the muscle outwards, making it look bigger.
Yeah.
You're not actually necessarily flexing those muscles. You're just putting weight on them, and then just pushing them into the next one, and that's what's giving them.
Yeah. And then it gives you the splits down the side too whenever you do that too. You know,
so it'll show the separation between the quad and the hamstring all the way down the side. Doing it
so it's just it's amazing how again it's an art, right?
Things I would never have known unless I started working on it. You know, because I started working on posing, especially the mandatories, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks out.
Oh yeah.
Just making sure that I was going to do well presenting myself on stage, because that was one of the biggest things I was nervous is like, you know, if I'm going to step up there in front of a crowd full of people wearing close to nothing, like I want to at least hit the poses great. You know what I mean? Like, so I put a lot of effort into hitting the mandatories as best as possible, because I was like, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it.
Yeah, right? For sure. So whenever you, so first show, first experience, how'd you do?
So I came out as the true novice overall and the novice class C overall winner.
There you go.
Yeah. And we competed both those together.
Oh yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. No, we did. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not my arch nemesis. So we got to start. We're going to start cutting promos.
Get a big poster.
I'll take the heel. Yeah. I'll take the heel position. That's fine. I like this. I'll be the bad guy. It's fun. But so, you know, first show out, win was that the only 2 classes that you competed in?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm actually I've been kicking myself in the butt because I wish I would have competed in the open, because I would have liked to be compared to everybody.
Sure.
And I'm not doing I don't think I'm going to do another show this year. I think we're just going to take a good off season and come back next year, next season. So I was like, man, I don't feel like I wasted time, because I still got the experience in the two overall wins, but I wish I would have competed in the open or done in maybe a bodybuilding class or something like that to get more experience on stage and things. So, because it's expensive.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, and we'll get into that in just a second. Kind of the toll that it took on everything, you know, for doing your first show, kind of thing. But you know, you went in conditioned. You got this excellent frame. You know, how tall are you? You're
5'11".
5'11". So you're right at kind of that. Not the max, but you know you're up there.
I'm just above the cap on novice B. So
okay.
I was at the lowest height range for class C.
Yeah. So and I didn't know this going into it. I mean, I had to look up. So the novice class is for people that have never won before. Is that correct? True novice is for people that have never competed before.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that. You and I both were in those categories for whichever our weight class was. Tell us about the weight fluctuation the week going into it.
The week going in?
Yeah.
So pulling water off and doing, you know, everything leading up to the show, I think at the beginning of that week, I don't remember exactly, but I was somewhere around 200 pounds at the beginning of peak week. And by the time I did my weigh-ins, my check-ins, I was 189 pounds.
Okay.
Pulling water off. And the beginning of the week were very low on carbohydrates, and just like you, at near the end of the week, we were pushing carbohydrates
loading up on them, yeah.
But the water was extremely low. So at the beginning, I would drink 6 liters of water a day, and then have no carbs, or close, you know, very little carbs. And then at the end, I was only drinking like a few ounces a day, but I had a ton of carbs.
Yeah,
you know, just filling back out for the show.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's the counter trusting the process, right?
There's a science behind it.
Oh, yeah.
You would never think that, you know, the day before a bodybuilding show, you would eat a double cheeseburger after dieting as hard as you did for the past 20 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the day before, you get a cheeseburger.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fill this body back up, you know, real quick. Yeah. And you had a pretty dramatic weight gain immediately afterwards.
Yeah. I did not reverse diet well. I kind of binged for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, when I weighed in for the show, I was 189 pounds. And that was Friday night. And by the coming Tuesday, I was 218 pounds.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. Yeah. And we talked before this, but I remember I was in the kitchen and I was, of course, eating something. And I looked down at my feet, and my ankles, and my knees, and I turned around to my wife, and I was like, "Do I look swollen to you?" And she goes, "I didn't want to say anything and hurt your feelings." She goes, "But your ankles are like hanging over your socks right now."
That's right. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's not good."
Yeah. It's a but now you're back to kind of a normal now, 2 weeks out.
Yeah, I weighed 209 and some change this morning.
Yeah. So, again, it's the unknowns that people like don't understand. Like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. Okay, well, here's what you have to deal with, kind of thing.
Yeah. And my coach, he gave me the warning. He's like, dude, watch what you're doing. He says, nothing to gain like 20 pounds in a couple of days. And I almost gained 30. So, he was like, dude, be careful, and we'll get you a reverse diet really soon. And he got me a reverse diet the next day. Yeah. I mean, I had it. It was available.
It's just the time.
I just,
I'm not listening to you for another 24 hours.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I prepped for 20 weeks. I'm eating this.
Right.
And I was, I regretted it. Next time I compete, I will. I know what I felt like. I know how my stomach felt. I had awful heartburn. It felt like there was a rock in my gut. Everything was swollen. I couldn't take my ring off.
Yeah.
I was just super watery. It's just very uncomfortable feeling. And now I know what that feels like. And I think I'll have better, control because I have this knowledge now.
Exactly.
So I'm like,
how prove to
bad,
yourself?
How bad could it be? And it was bad.
Right.
Yeah, I did not feel.
It was
good
that bad, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And no, I get it. In same way in a certain respect was that I'm not a big carb or candy guy. They could have all the donuts in the world at post show for people to eat. I wouldn't touch one. I just, it's not my thing. You throw some pizza out there, dude, I am mealing. I love it. Yeah. So we left and went and had pizza and a few beers, and it was I ate and ate and ate and ate. And then had Mexican the next day, and then it was the crazy thing about it is that it wasn't nearly as satisfying as what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
It wasn't this. Oh, thank God, pizza. Oh, nice cold Modelo, or whatever Mexican kind of plate that you kind of get. But so I think that your gut flora changes, when you go through all that stuff. You get really used to the whole chicken and rice thing and the digestive ease of that per se, as opposed to a bunch of overly processed,
greasy,
pepperoni, heavy doughs and stuff like that. So I going forward, I learned, right? It's, the process that you're spoiling by doing that, by cheating on things, is truly not worth it. You remember that feeling when you could have it, and it was like really not that satisfying. Right. I mean, it was good, but I mean, it wasn't anything.
And it's almost like a mental thing too, because I mean, you did everything, you're following a plan, you're staying consistent, and then you eat these things, and you're like, you almost, feel a little bit like you're letting yourself down a little bit. I don't know how to explain it. You're letting yourself down a little bit. Like, why would I, why did I just house 700 calories? I didn't need 700 calories.
Right.
I still plan on, competing in more shows. Now's the time to follow the plan and do a good off season. I didn't need to do that, so you almost feel a little bit guilty when you do cheat, if you do cheat, which through prep I did really well with not. It was just as soon as it was done, I was free range, man.
Right, yeah.
I had a smorgasbord for 3 days.
Like, give me 48 hours.
Yeah.
Just give me 48 hours.
And we were polar opposites because I didn't really eat any savory food.
Yeah.
I had a couple things just because I was like, man, I need to eat something that's like real food other than what I've been eating. But I mean, like I said earlier, I had 6 jelly-filled donuts before I left the venue. 6. I brought them all with me. I popped them open and ate all 6 of them, and then left and had a cooler with like Reese cups and snack cakes, and I probably had no less than 1,500 to 2,000 calories before I even made it home.
Yeah. Well, Reese cups were what I was supposed to be having beforehand. Is what I had show day.
Oh, okay.
And so I had a whole bag full of Reese cups back there, and I was supposed to eat 30 minutes before I went on stage. Well, like there were times I never even got out of line. You come off stage and like, Derek, we need you over here. And so okay, then you get back in line and you're running over there and you're
trying to
get something in, throwing some water back. You have your bands back there that you're just trying to get a good pump on doing push-ups, and it's like, no, shit, next I got to get back up there again.
Especially during finals.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because you would go and then do your routine. And those of us who were multiple classes, you would go do your routine, and then you would have to come back out, turn right back around, go back up, and do your comparisons. And then if you won that, you had to turn around, go back out, come back up to do the overall. So you're on the stage, 3 to 6 times, like within like a 25
minute period. Yeah, it's like, and if I'm trying to do like, and I realize it's a timing thing, but again, 1,500 calories in peanut butter cups over a 30-minute period.
That's put your body into shock.
Right. Yeah.
We did a little bit of sea salt in a tablespoon of honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we were using before we would go out. But we would do it like as soon as we were told to start pumping up. I mean, we would do it right then. That way, when we pumped up, it was pushing all that sugar and salt and sodium into your muscle.
Yeah.
Making you
So I was in really good communication with my coach while we were back there, and he goes, we would send pictures. Dakota was sending pictures to him while I was up on stage, and he would say, "You need to get some pump sauce." Have you ever heard of pump sauce before?
No.
Okay, so shout out to pump sauce. Whoever, I don't know the company that I think it's just called pump sauce. I don't know if you could, pull that up. My coach says, get some pump sauce if somebody has some. I was like, what?
What is that?
Is that some sort of like just concoction that everybody knows? Just straight up pump sauce. Okay.
Pump sauce on Amazon.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah. So I said, oh well, I don't have pump sauce. He was like, okay, well, what to remember to get some pump sauce next time. So.
Yeah. What's in it?
Well, it's just like a glycerol and just carby, sugary goodness.
Okay,
yeah. So you take 2 shots of that before you work out for like 15 minutes beforehand. We did it the other day, dude. It feels like your arms are going to explode.
It's like heavy back day.
Yeah.
And like my forearms and my biceps were
like the skin was going to split.
Yeah. I was going to explode.
Yeah.
That's a great feeling though.
Oh yeah. So I mean, and it's not, it's non-stem, so you don't get all the jittery kind of stuff that goes along with it. So I was like, okay, well, I know what pump sauce is now, and man, it would have been nice.
Supporter.
Would have been nice to know that I had that was an option, other than the day of. I don't think I can get the Amazon drone delivery to the national center.
Shout out pump sauce.
Shout out
Pump sauce. Did you guys use any alcohol or anything the days prior?
So he told me that. So I'm not a coffee guy at all.
That black coffee.
Yeah.
This
Black
is the only
coffee.
water you get during the day.
Black coffee with a double shot of espresso is what what I was told to do. And I actually did a mock show day like a month out. Just to kind of went through a mock peak week, Friday, pictures, posing, all that stuff, just to see where I could be at. And it was a black coffee that day, and I was like, dude, I'm not a coffee guy. Like we don't have a coffee pot at our house. We don't drink coffee. I went through a phase where I tried to do it before, and it was more like candy in a cup, kind of stuff. I
like my coffee to taste like a dessert.
Right. Yeah.
To be honest with you, that's the only way I enjoy drinking coffee. So I feel that.
Yeah. So he's, his suggestion was that you can do the coffee thing with a shot of espresso, or you can do a shot of vodka.
Yeah.
And I don't do either. So, I mean, I was like, well, I'm just going to throw that out, Now I'll drink this stuff, all day long. Yeah.
It's pretty easy to house down like 1,000 milligrams of caffeine with those.
Right, huh? Yeah. So I don't, if it's caffeine that I'm looking for, or some sort of drying agent, then that's probably doing the same thing too, and just take a little bit of it.
Gorilla Mine sponsor us.
Gorilla Mine, yeah. Gorilla Mine right there.
Their berry blast and their grape one are wonderful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the black cherry vanilla is the holy grail at our house. So whenever it comes in at A&S, they know to call me because I'll come in. I'll just come by all of it.
Come by everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard find sometimes, but yeah, so the alcohol was an option that day. I just opted. I just don't do it, The other thing was the amount of carbs with the peanut butter cups, a little bit of salt, and I still ate, and I was still drinking water back there too. So I didn't have to deplete much, but I had a pretty, I'm in healthcare, so it's like we had a pretty good talk when we started this whole process of what I am willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. Plus I'm 49 years old. Like I don't have as resilient of a, kind of systems that, some of these guys do. So again, we did like a 12-week prep, pull down, do it as much as like this as we can. I did do some dandelion root, some vitamin C and vitamin B, and something, I can't remember what the other one was called. A couple days in, just to help with some like a natural diuresis kind of thing. But I felt good. It didn't hurt, didn't cramp, didn't have.
Yeah, I didn't have any cramping or anything like that. It was just like I was just tired all the time.
Yeah,
like I could fall asleep sitting up in this chair if it was rewind 3 weeks ago. But other than that, and I was a little more irritable than normal. I don't know if you experienced that at all. But I was a little more irritable than normal.
I apologize to everybody that I could, afterwards. I was like, I understand. I can feel myself being pissy, like and relatively self-aware guy in a lot of instances. It's an important quality to have for me. So I was like, I feel myself just being testy. So yeah.
And then you would act that way, and then like leave the room, and you're like, it wasn't even that serious.
Right, yeah.
Why did I do that?
Quit being a dick.
So if I was just an asshole to my loving wife,
right, yeah, exactly,
reason,
right,
then I had to go back in there and be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm really, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I would experience that, especially near the end, when you're just more exhausted and more tired, and your feet hurt all the time, or it hurts to sit down for long periods because there's like no body fat, things like that, and I would get testy pretty quick sometimes, and my wife's a champ. She was there every step of the way with me. So the other thing that we can allude to, that the important things of doing this is that you have to have the support system for it. 100%.
You have to have
that is like there or understands your goals and wants you to achieve those goals. Because if she didn't understand, or she was just like, whatever, do whatever you want, like it would have been a lot harder, I think. And she was a great support system, like with meals or anything like that. Like if I was running behind, she'd help me meal prep everything, get everything in containers before I left for work, or do this or that. So
there's it's a very, to me, it was a very personal decision as far as a motivator, kind of probably the same way as you. You're like, I have to do this.
Yeah. It was a lot of like, I know I keep talking about this.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to do it.
This is the next thing that I want to do, and I have to do this for me. And to have a group or a circle or whatever, of folks that understand that, don't question it, don't concerned for health and well-being kind of things I get, but like, all right, this is what you're going to do. Then what can I do to help, or what can I do to help support that? That means everything.
Oh yeah.
And not doubting, not questioning, because at the core, we're doubting and questioning it, right? And if I don't have the support of family, friends, wives, kids, and I'm doing, I'm constantly having to explain why I'm doing this or whatever, well, then I'm going to start questioning it too, and I don't think that makes you a weak person. It's just natural, it's like, gosh, Derek, why are you doing this? What is the purpose behind all this? What do you have to prove to everybody? Well, I just have to prove it to me, it's not to anybody,
And it also helps when you surround yourself with like-minded people, like a lot of the, from my wife to even just the people I've known at the gym for the past 6 years, all of them were great.
Yeah.
You go to the gym, they ask you how you're doing, how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It gives you motivation. They're like, well, we're excited to see you. You look great, this and that. And even when you don't feel like you look great or you're doing well, just going in and your friends are, kind of gassing you up a little bit.
Sure.
It makes you feel good. So
yeah, and you go to Rhino out of Princeton, right?
Yes.
Right? So, you guys had Rhino, gym jackets on whenever you showed up.
Yeah. Those were sweet.
Those were sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that I was kind of looking for going into it. But just like everything else, you kind of get started late on those things, But, again, it's the community, right? And you surround yourself with it. So, we go to a couple different gyms, but for the most part, we go to BFit just because that's where we've kind of learned the equipment, and that's just we have our routine, and that's what we know how that weight feels and what those machines feel like.
Benches feel
right,
a certain way because I'll realize I'll go to a different gym and I don't like the way that their benches they're too boxy or something.
Right,
I don't know how to explain it, but
so that's just what we've gotten used to. We'll transition out of those here before too terribly long, but the it's so big and so busy, you don't get that part of it. Now, what you do get there, the ones that we do see there are incredibly supportive, and we'll talk to them or whatever. But Rhino seems like it's more of a team culture, in the people that are there. I've never been up there. I'm just making those assumptions just because you guys had really cool jackets.
So actually, what started the jacket thing is I think we were about like 10 or 12 weeks out from the show, and I was on the elliptical, and I stopped Ashley, and I was like, hey, we should do something like this. I'd love to, wear something for the gym at the show. I was like, you just let me know what it would cost to do it and things like that. And it just kind of rolled from there. And now, then we got tracksuits. So I had just brought it up, and Ashley was like, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. And then we all just rolled with it.
Yeah. They looked great. I mean, and the thing about it is, we in the team sports that my kids have participated in, and my wife was a cross country coach, and and all those, it makes a difference. I know that it is people look at it differently, but whenever if my team, cross country track is one that really kind of stands out. So if my team is standing there at a track meet, and everybody is in different clothes. Everybody's worn what they want to wear. Some kids got on slides. Some kids got on this. Some shorts, sweats, some cutout T-shirts, and they just look frumpy. And then the team gets off the bus that's got all the matching track suits. They're walking in a line. They've got they're helping pack equipment. They all get to their campsite. They're putting the tent up. They're putting the floor down. They're doing all these things, and they're out stretching everything. It makes a difference.
Yeah, that feeling of being like a part of something, and having the uniforms are just the base of it, but I think having that, and then especially with me and Uriah being there, knowing we're on the same teams, the same gym, we've worked at it with each other for the past 20 weeks prepping for this, and then seeing him in that, me in that, it's like this. It's a great moment. That's my teammate.
Right? Exactly. It's a testament to the support system that you've got going with you, right? Yeah.
And we stayed at the same hotel, did the same, evening thing, peaked, same time together. It was a great experience.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
And it's the same thing with the gym. Actually, I pretty well know everybody at Rhino, unless you come in at 3 a.m. Obviously, I'm not there. But, the typical crowd at the same time, I've been going in for the past 6-7 years. I know them all by name. They all know me by name. So when I decided to do the Indiana Muscle, they were all like, oh, that's great. Yeah. And they were there every day I went in there.
Right.
We always had a good conversation about it, and it really helped out a lot, I think.
Yeah. We the people that I run into that I speak with about it at BFit is like Derek Wallace. I keep bringing the Wallace's names up, and he's always like, man, anytime you want to get in there, they have a posing room. Anytime you want to get in there and just do some work and give you some tips, you can look at me and give me some tips. I'm like, great. So again, it's that whole community, team feeling, that kind of comes along in the bodybuilding thing. So I think we kind of hit on what it takes, when you kind of your wife is obviously awesome as she sits back there and reads.
Oh,
It's like she's not paying attention to us.
She's having a blast over there.
She's in whatever world that those words are giving her over there. So
we were just saying how great you are, and how great you were during my prep and everything.
So it requires all that. It requires understanding. It requires support.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of, and I don't want to sound like I'm this king of the castle man or whatever, but I was like, my mind's made up. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We support it or don't, but you need that.
Yeah.
You need that from people.
She teases me all the time because if I like find something I'm interested in or like something that I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and I make the decision, like I'm doing it, every bit of my effort is that now. I will accomplish this, whether I do poorly, whether I do great, it doesn't matter. Like I have that one track mind where if I decide on something, I'm doing it.
Yep.
That's just what it is. And I'm just blessed that, she loves me enough to where if I decide I'm going to do it, she's like, look, let's do it.
Yeah.
And she just goes and
just roll
she's with me.
That's beautiful, man. That is, we're very fortunate to have that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're very, very fortunate. So your plans for the rest of the year are to take a break?
Right now,
get swole.
Yeah, looking to grow. When I brought up the show, there's a show December 6th. I brought it up to my coach. He said we need a really good off season, and he kind of wants to see how I'm responding to my food going up over the next few months. So things may change. If they don't, that's fine. But right now, the main plan is, and the critique I got from judges was to be bigger.
Be bigger.
Yeah. There's a 20-pound difference, 20-pound difference in the weight cap to what I came in at. So trying to close that gap out.
So and just for the people listening and that are maybe thinking about trying this out as a goal or an objective, he won.
Yeah.
He won both of his classes, and his judge feedback was, you need to be bigger. So just know that is, again, and again, it's to trust the process, because you get done with it. It was fun. And we were talking about this too before we started recording, was that, when's the next one? I want to do the next one. Let's go. Just
chomping at the bit.
Right. Yeah. And, you don't want to lose what momentum you think you have, like, okay, so I'm in this condition now. What if I keep going? It's just not how it works. And again, trust the process.
Especially being this depleted. If you're going to do multiple shows, in my opinion, I don't know if it's the right opinion, but in my opinion, if you're going to do multiple shows, you want to try and put them as close together as you can. That way, you have opportunity to actually grow, because it's hard to put tissue on.
Oh yeah,
and it takes a long time to do that.
Yeah.
So actually, I just got a pretty cool text from Ashley.
Okay.
He's got a wall in our gym for athletes around.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He just texted me and said that he's printing your ionized pictures to put on the walls and stuff.
That's perfect timing, right?
Yeah,
so see, it's team, it's community. It's I am proud that you are members here.
Yeah,
I'm going to put you up on the wall.
Even the Facebook post he posted after the show, where he was like, just talking about,
right?
I mean, even just any part of it, I was just blessed to have.
Man.
Like, as soon as he knew where I had placed, I immediately got a message.
Yeah,
as soon as he knew, I didn't even get to text him and tell him how I placed. He knew, and he was already like, dude, that's great. Awesome. You did fantastic. You worked hard for this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just having that. I've only known Ashley for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's like just having that and that, that group atmosphere at the gym, and people messaging me that day and just days after saying just, dude, that's awesome. You did great.
Right.
And it really makes you feel good. And even me and you, that's how me and you started talking.
Oh, yeah.
Because we added each other on Facebook, and we both started
just
messaging
blowing
back.
each other up, like stroking each other's ego. Dude, you looked awesome up there. Great job. Hey man, you do, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I need to get up there. I need to get up there to you guys' gym, especially if you're not competing this year. Then you can help me out. Like I could go up there and get my Team Rhino jacket. But so tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. JWheeler_fitness. I don't really use TikTok. Huh?
We'll slap it up on the screen.
We'll put it up on the screen too.
I don't typically. I have a TikTok, but I'm terrible at posting or doing anything on TikTok. But that's big. I think it's big_wheels5.
Okay.
Or something like that.
We've got your Instagram.
And then,
we'll find it.
And then Facebook, just Jason Wheeler.
Jason Wheeler. Yeah.
But Instagram and Facebook are the two biggest ones that I use.
And you got some companies that you rep for, right? I mean, you have some.
I'm on the demo crew for Axe and Sledge, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then obviously an athlete for my home gym, or hometown gym. Am I forgetting anything? And then we're gonna
get you some optimized.
I was gonna say I've been trying to promote you guys.
We appreciate the hell out of it, dude. Yeah, it's awesome.
Especially since we started talking, and I was like, yeah, that's a really cool guy. I can get behind,
Thanks, man.
get behind that and help him out and do what I can. So
we have there's a couple of sides to Optimize You. Jessica, my partner, is very does a lot of things in the community and does she spoke at a 5K yesterday for breast cancer awareness with Waymakers. I think it was breast cancer awareness. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But anyway, Waymakers in Newburgh. And I'm the bro end of it. Like I love the bodybuilder. I love talking to bodybuilders. I love talking to those guys that have, kind of abused things throughout their former lives and are trying to just get straightened back out and stuff like that. Those are my people. Just because we all chase dragons, and the or demons or whatever you want to call it, and that's just very much a guy thing to do, and to be able to help out there and have access to labs, medications, all the thing, and the knowledge to interpret it and try to correct those things.
It's helpful for a wide range of people.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be even just tailored towards bodybuilding.
No, no, it's everything, anything and everything, dude.
PCOS, like women with PCOS.
Right. Yeah.
And even just knowing what your levels are, even if you're not doing anything and you're like, I'm healthy. I don't do this or that. And then, you never know. It's always good to have like that knowledge and understand where you're at.
And in all honesty, especially in what we've decided to start doing, right?
Yeah.
That's just not you look great on stage.
It's not the healthiest.
But it's not the healthiest thing in the world to be doing, right? So, you have to be able to, your body has to be resilient and, and we have to get those things corrected. And that's why it's important to, like, what you're doing is take this time off to make sure everything is cool, get everything settled back down, and that kind of thing.
Go through a health phase, get all my blood work done, check everything out, make sure all my levels are good. If they're not, get it corrected, things like that. And that's just as big. That's just as important as the competing side.
Certainly.
Because like we said, it's not the healthiest thing.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Some of the things you do, you look at me on stage, but if I told you some of the things you had to do to get to look like that on stage, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's not great. So it's, hand in hand, you got to just make sure you're healthy. I got kids and a wife.
Yeah.
That's the, at the end of the day, they're the most important thing. I want to bodybuild for a long time. I think I have a long time to be able to do it. And I think you do too. I think you want to compete for a good while as well. So just keep making sure that you do it the healthiest way you can. Is important.
Yeah. And always have somebody monitoring, and that's what we do. It's just it's the importance of having a coach, a nutritionist, or coach and a nutritionist, however that person is acting for you, is and having somebody that you can speak with and make has access to labs, has corrective medications, those kinds of things, and that's where it is my passion. I love it. So Jason Wheeler _fitness on Instagram.
Jay Wheeler.
Jay Wheeler. Jay Wheeler _fitness. Thanks for so much, man, for coming in, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Total fun, right?
This is my first time ever being on a podcast. I had a good time. I enjoyed this. So it was great.
We'll keep you on as my fellow first timer bro bodybuilder guys. Okay.
Sounds good.
If we get some bigger names in here, there's some big names around here. There's a lot of dudes that have competed and are on our pros and I don't want to turn this into an entire bodybuilding thing, but there's plenty of people and resources around that we can get in here too. So
especially around this area, there's all different kinds of walks of life that you can bring in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Conversations with. I think it's one of the big things, just good conversation.
Yeah. That's why we would just call it Better Human. It's just what are you doing to improve yourself, be better? Whether that's community work, whether that's spiritual work, financial work, physical work, whatever it is, that's what we want. That's the people I want on here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right, man. Well, good luck to you. We'll talk around, and thanks for tuning in.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you, man. Yeah.